Shut up and sit down.
My normal welcome is going to come up in a couple of seconds, but I needed to insert this quick interlude before the next video starts. I recorded the last video about 5 days ago. It was in the minutes before I jumped on a plane and flew up to Sydney to see my granddaughter for her first birthday and stay with my daughter for a little while. But since I got back, I'd noticed a few things had sort of changed around what this video was about. I just wanted to insert something quick. Okay, so the video coming up is around about the emerging TGV WatchBox reviews kind of intersection and how I'd seen that changed. At the time I said I hadn't really seen much happen there. Subsequent to that, a very odd, in my opinion, interview piece has been had between Tim Mosso and TGV. I don't know how to read that. It struck me as kind of weird. Was I the only one who felt the dynamic was strange? But then on the other hand, two people probably only met for the first time. I'll be curious to see how that dynamic grows, if it grows at all. Also, there's been a few more WatchBox reviews come up. Maybe I jumped the gun by saying that they're kind of changing their mix-up to accommodate a kind of a more lower-end crowd. Who can tell? Maybe I jumped the gun. We'll see over the next couple of weeks. But anyway, with nothing else and with no further ado, let's get into the next video. Bye. Hi, welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville. Another TGV and WatchBox video. Actually, that's not true. A WatchBox video today. A couple of weeks ago, when the TGV WatchBox link up was announced, I spoke about it and I was talking about how they kind of complement each other. That the bottom of where Tim and the WatchBox videos routine, Tim Mosso and the WatchBox videos normally live, kind of is down at the bottom. Their bottom end is kind of where TGV's top end sort of hits, and they don't cross over an enormous amount. And in there I said that I could really see some synergies, but a lot of the comments came back and sort of were doubtful of that, thinking that TGV's audience, the community he's bringing with them to WatchBox, wouldn't really effectively integrate into the inventory that WatchBox seems to carry and seems to talk about on their channel. Interestingly, I hadn't looked at WatchBox recently. I've sort of been looking at TGV a little bit, wondering what the impact of this change was going to be on him and the kinds of things he covered. And one of the things I'd noticed was there wasn't much to notice. He seemed to be doing pretty much as he's been doing before. A little bit of tweak, and I think the production values have maybe stepped up a bit, but apart from that, no, it's hard to see a difference. Maybe I was looking in the wrong place, because this afternoon I was just sort of sitting down, cruising around, looking at some things, and actually I'm putting together a video to looking at the Swatch releases for 2019, kind of in the absence of them being at Basel World. And then that took me to WatchBox, because Tim Mosso just did a thing on Omega, which I will get to, because I want to talk about that too. But anyway, so I went to WatchBox and I was looking at I went to the channel and said, show me all the videos that they've been releasing over the last couple of weeks, and something suddenly struck me. Now, remember how I said that TGV and Tim Mosso kind of don't meet very much, that they kind of, Tim only every now and then will touch on a watch down around that $1,000 to $2,000 mark, and that they don't cross over a lot. Well, that's changed. I'm going to use notes for a second here because I'll forget this. But basically, in the last week, Tim Mosso, who will normally be talking about at the lowest end, he'll be talking about Omega Speedmasters and maybe the odd Datejust, but spends a lot of time talking about more expensive, more high-end stuff. In the last week, we've had an Oris Big Crown Pro Pilot, a ball engineer master, a tag aqua racer, a Zin 556, and today, the one that really sort of piqued my interest was a glycine airman. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of those watches. They're perfectly good watches, and in fact, I'd be perfectly happy owning those. There's nothing, as I said, there's nothing wrong with those. Those are not. I'm not being critical of Tim or for WatchBox for having them, for selling them, for putting on the channel, but I am remarking that it is a very different set of watches than you would expect to see on WatchBox. This is a very different set of watches that I would expect. It's very different to what I would expect to see Tim reviewing in a single week on the channel over the last 2 years I've been watching. Now, it could be that I'm completely out of whack. It could be that this is actually quite normal. If someone's been a lot more scrupulous than me, gone back and done some analysis, please feel free to tell me in the comments that I've got this completely wrong. I didn't go back a long way. I scanned back a month or two, and this really struck me as being different. This struck me as being as WatchBox really not moving down market, because there's still a lot of high-end stuff, but certainly accommodating a much broader spectrum of people, accommodating a group of people who would up until recently have only been watching TGV stuff and not WatchBox. So I think that we're beginning to see what it's going to mean, this link up between TGV's community and WatchBox. I think we're beginning to see what the link up between TGV and WatchBox is going to look like. And personally, I think this is a good thing. I think what we're going to see is WatchBox actually spreading its wings a little bit, coming down off its ivory tower, and talking a little bit more about watches that normal people would buy. The kinds of people who, funnily enough, they're just bringing into their community via TGV. So I actually do think this is a change for WatchBox. I think that this is a change, maybe not in response to, but as part of the strategy that saw them bringing TGV into their family. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that this very high-end dealer that had been dealing almost exclusively with with more expensive watches is now opening the door to probably $800, $900 to $1,500 watches. I applaud them for it, and I think this is a positive outcome. So with that said, I'm now going to talk about something else Tim Mosso said that I'm not sure if it's positive or negative, but it's certainly interesting. And what he did in his I think it was his most recent sort of live stream, he was talking about the Omega revival and the things that Omega should do. And it kind of got me a little bit mystified and a little bit angry as a consumer, because okay, I'll cut to the chase. What he basically said was, Omega's got some nice watches, but they're screwing everything up, and they should be more like Rolex. That they should be cutting down on their SKUs, and I've done a whole video on too many SKUs, and you can find a link to that. That they should be cutting down on consumer choice. That they should be restricting supply to make it harder to get their watches, that they should be cutting out whole ranges and not providing watches that you might want to buy. Now, as someone who's like rooting for their as an Australian, that really makes me laugh every time I say that. As someone who's like barracking for Team Omega, everything that Tim Mosso just said makes perfect sense. As someone who's got their Omega jersey on and they're sitting in the stands of the watch company World Cup, wanting their team to go out and match it with Omega, everything Tim Mosso is saying makes perfect sense. Except there is no watch company World Cup. There is no grandstand for us all to be standing in wearing our Omega jerseys and cheering them on to take on Omega. We aren't team members with these people. We buy their watches. They make stuff, we like it, we buy it. And in that world, what are we doing encouraging them to make their watches more expensive? Coaching them to make the watches that we want to buy harder to get. Imploring these people to take watches, to take choices that we might want to make and take them away from us. Why are we as consumers voting for teams, our providers, to give us shittier service? Why? I'll tell you why. It's because, one, it's this issue of we are beginning to sort of deal with our brands more and more as teams. And the second thing is that it relates to a video I did on another issue where about watches being positional goods. We've attached ourselves to a brand. That brand is our team. If our team is winning, then we are winning, and we're perfectly happy to pay more for our watches. We're perfectly happy to have to wait longer for our watches. We're perfectly happy to have less choice in our watches if it means that whatever's left over that we eventually get, that we may have to save up an extra year to get, is somehow regarded as better, is somehow regarded as matching Rolex. How messed up is that? And this comes from a guy who, in the same video, was telling people, don't worry about what other people think, buy the watches you like, buy the watches you love, buy something that makes you happy. That is just so messed up, so screwed, and yet it probably is an accurate reflection of our mindset, of the mindset of the average watch buyer, where we don't really sit down and carefully consider what's influencing us, what's driving us. We don't sit down and take these thoughts and put them next to each other and say, what does it mean when I wish the company I'm attached to would do better, would be more like Rolex? What does it mean if I'm a Seamaster fan and I get onto a forum and I do battle with a Rolex guy about why the Seamaster versus sub is important, or I watch, John P did a video recently, which I haven't even watched yet, but I pitting the two against him and I'm rooting for one or the other. Do I even stop to think that if my team starts winning, that's bad for me? My watches get more expensive. I don't get the choices I want. I have to wait longer to get them. Shouldn't we be voting? If you start putting all that next to each other and thinking rationally, as so many commenters on my channel have said to me, I don't care about any of this stuff. I make rational choices. Well, shouldn't the rational choice be that we desperately want our watch companies to massively overproduce, have far too many SKUs, always have everything that we want to be available? Unless, of course, we're not as rational as we think we are. Unless, of course, deep down, we kind of want our watches to get a bit cheaper, but we'd rather our watches be considered better. We kind of want to, be able to just walk into an AD, try any watch we want on, and then walk out if we like, walk out of the shop with it if we like it. But maybe we're prepared to give that up if it means that, our watch will carry a little bit more positional power and will say better things about us the next time we're in the office with it. That's it. That's all I was going to say. There's really not much else to it. So I'd be interested in your thoughts. Are you seeing changes in WatchBox and or TGV now that this relationship is starting to find its feet? It's very, very early days. I don't even know even know if TGV, the man, has actually even moved up to Philly or not yet. I haven't really paid quite that much attention. But I think in these very early days, I'm sensing that some repositioning is happening, particularly at the WatchBox end. And I don't think it's a bad thing. What are your thoughts? And secondly, what are your thoughts on your relationship with your watch brand and whatever, or brands, whatever they are? And I'm curious, what's your feelings about where your brand should rank against other brands? And would you be prepared to take a real personal hit, pay more for your watches, wait longer for them to arrive, have less choice in what you're getting? Are you prepared to take that so that the brand that you've attached yourself to is somehow better regarded? Or conversely, are you perfectly happy saying, actually, I really like the watch, I don't care about how other people think about it, and if the company's going to overproduce and the company's going to make 1,000,001 different choices, and I know that if I walk into a shop there's always going to be one for me, hey, that's a great thing. I'll take that every day. Where do you fall? Yeah, that's it. I want to know. Please give me comments. Thanks very much. I've been Pete McConville. This is Not So Obvious Watches. A little bit more animated than normal, but I was really kind of mystified, angry, surprised, and yeah, I really got into today. So that's it. Please subscribe. As I said in the last one, I'm desperately trying to pass a podcast. How sad is that? I am pleading with subscribers so that me, a video producer, can have more subscribers on a video platform than a podcast and a blank screen with just a Scottish Watches thing. If you want to save me the embarrassment, please subscribe. And I'll see you later. Oh, by the way, the guys from Scottish Watches, they are really good. Don't subscribe to their YouTube channel, but go check out their podcast. It's really worth it. Thanks very much. Bye.
Romantic, isn't it? Shut up and sit down.